Hello, this is Captain. Welcome back to Stormworks Basics. This is the oil drilling tutorial series part 2. And so in the last episode, went ahead and showed you guys how to drill with an oil rig. This is all post-pressure update. The date of recording is December 2nd, 2023. So all the stuff is working with the current state of the game with the pressure update. And so we're going to go ahead and build this rig behind us. A lot of people have been struggling trying to fraction. They can't get the temperatures up. This rig behind me is my testing rig, and this is working well. So we're going to start from scratch, and we'll go ahead and build a rig together. Right, so we're going to start where we left off last episode, and we're going to start by building a base. So the way I like to do these rigs is I will do my drilling rig, and then I will remove the drilling rig, and then we'll go ahead and we'll put on this pumping rig. All right, so just drag the blocks all the way to the bottom. We're going to grab a table. You do need a table for the pumping, so I'm going to go ahead and set that up here. Again, just like last time, we're going to put the torque on the back. We do not need the torque this time, though, because we are not drilling. We're just pumping. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut this and move it back. So this is at the very bottom. It is now aligned. And just like last time, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to delete the guidance blocks there so that we have this all set up. And we'll go ahead and we'll put a base on this. All right, so we have a base on here that we can walk around on. So the next thing we're going to do is build a pump jack. You can watch my pump jack tutorial if you're just interested in that. But this is going to build us a really nice, fast pump jacking system. So what we want to start with here is, just like last time, a swivel. So go ahead and grab the swivel. Swivel is going to be what we'll use to pump. So I'm just going to put it upside down here in line, and then we'll use the select tool. We'll grab it. Doesn't matter which direction the slurry is going to be because we're not going to use it. So we're right up against it here. We want the same alignment that we had with the drilling rig. So I'm going to go 4 blocks up. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that's the height we want. So we're going to go ahead and paste that. On top of that, we'll just type in oil to bring up some of the oil parts. We have the oil rig pump jack. So we're going to want this. So we're going to go ahead and stick this on top. If we look, you can see there's a hole on it. This is what will let the oil out. So I would just want to set this up so that, in this case, I'm going to have it pointing backwards, so that it is pushing back like this. Front, we're going to keep pretty clean, and then the back is going to have all our storage tanks and whatnot. All right, so there is the pumping rig right there. Go ahead and we'll just put some blocks so that it's not floating in the space here. And there we go. So we'll merge this all up, so now that is part of the world. All right, so now we're getting ready to actually convert this. So what I'm going to do here is we'll put on a wedge, we'll put on a block, and then I want to grab a velocity pivot. There's a velocity pivot. And we're going to stick this on the front like so. We're going to go ahead and click on it, and I want to bring the max power down to 0. This is just going to turn it into a bearing, okay? All right, next thing we want to do here is we're going to measure the stroke of this piston. So it is 10 blocks, as you can see. So what we want to do here is I'm going to take a pipe, and I'm going to put it in the bottom of this velocity pivot there. We're going to go down 10 blocks. All right. From there, we're going to go ahead and we'll grab another velocity pivot. So we'll just copy this one, copy it, and we'll rotate it around. And this will go down, and this will connect to the other end of the pipe. And we'll merge that right up. All right, good. So that is all set there. As you can see, it's right at the base. All right, now from the center of the hub down, we want to count 5. So we have the hub, we have this, so that's 2, so we need 3 more. So 1, 2, 3, there we go. And then we're going to go to another velocity pivot. So we'll go ahead and we'll copy this one. And I just need to remove that block there. All right, and we'll cut this again and we'll move it. And so we'll slide this right in place there. Go ahead and merge this up. Now, this one and this one are going to be bearings. This one is going to be powered, so this will go up to 100%. This is actually what's going to turn it. Now, I tend to like to try to balance these things out. They work better. When you're spinning in a circle, if it is not weighted correctly, this is going to pull up on the pivot, so we want to add a little bit of mass on here. So this goes up 5 total. Actually, 6. So let's go 6 on this one. All right, and we'll add just a little bit of weight on there. And so this is just going to counteract the weight of that block. And so as it spins, this mass is going to pull away, and the other side is going to pull away as well. And this will just balance out the forces of this. And so we'll go ahead and we'll just dress it up a little bit with some wedges here. And so this is going to counteract the mass of this. Doesn't have to be perfect. This will just help it from trying to rip apart. So this weight will pull down as this one's pulling up and vice versa. All right, good. So let's go ahead and we can adhere this to the ground now. All right, we'll go ahead and just kind of dress this up a little bit. There we go. All right, so this is our pump jacking system here. So we're going to go ahead and merge that to the ground. And we'll see if I got this right on the first try. Often it doesn't happen that way. So we will spawn it. And we'll go ahead and we'll check it out here. So this is going to convert the rotational motion into up and down motion. Let's gently start slow. And as you can see, this will pump the pump jack. And this is now going really slow, but I will turn it to full speed. And as you can see, we have full stroke of the piston. And it's turning that rotational energy into up and down motion. So let's go ahead and crank it. So as you can see, very fast. Looks like it's balanced pretty well. And so this will run indefinitely, no problem. And since we have infinite electricity, because this is a a stationary base, we won't have to pay for that electricity. But this is going to be more than enough pump rate. All right, so we'll go ahead and shut this off. And we'll go ahead and recall it back into the workbench. All right, so our pumping is taken care of. So what I want to do next is I want to build up a storage tank. So we're going to pump the oil out of here. We need to store it in a tank. So go ahead and I will quickly time-lapse out building of a tank. Alright, so we've got this tower built here, so I'm just going to merge it up. So just real quick tower here. I want to bring you guys back to work on some of the necessary things. So this is going to be our oil tower. We're going to have a diesel and a jet fuel. That'll be about half of that. So first thing I want to do here is I want to put ample amount of vent holes on here. This is going to make it easy to let the air out and relieve any air pressure that may build up. As we put liquid in here, the air has to go somewhere. As we add liquid, if the air can't get out fast enough, it's going to compress, and it's going to make it harder to pump it in. That is real life. That's how things work IRL. So we're going to do gas reliefs on the top here. Just doing 4 of them. Put some ports on here. This will allow the gas to push out. As the liquid pushes up, it's going to push the gas out. So it's working as a hydraulic pump. So we'll go 14 from the bottom here. All right. And that's going to be where our tank sits. So we'll go ahead and we'll just grab up to that level. There we go. So I'll go ahead and copy 2 of these. So we'll copy this one. And this one's going to be either diesel or jet fuel. So we'll put that over there. And this one will go over here on the other side. All right, good. So go ahead and I can get rid of my my measuring blocks there. All right, and we're just going to grab the top. So I'm just going to quickly merge these 2 down. And we'll just grab the top here. So 3 total tanks. This will take care of us and give us plenty of storage. So this base can run while you're out playing your game. I play a lot of career games, and as long as you have a keep active block, this will pump and refine the entire time you're gone. And so you'll come back to it, and you'll have full tanks of diesel and jet fuel. So you can either utilize them for your creations, or you can sell it for cash money dollar bills. So there we go. We have our tanks on here. Now that is probably overkill. I've done other systems that are singles, but I'm kind of doing a little extra there just to make sure we have no venting problems. I don't want people to have any issues. We're going to go ahead and we're going to plumb up the oil. So here is the fluid out from the oil. That's going to go directly into the side there, and we'll cut a hole in for it. So we're going to go ahead and we'll grab a fluid port. Now we don't have to worry about venting this as just, it's okay. There's probably not going to be any air in this pipe anyways, but if air gets in the pipe, it's going to come in the tank, and then it's going to spit out the top of the tank. We don't have to worry about it as long as we have some place for it to relieve. The pressurization is actually pretty intuitive. It's not all that bad. So let's go ahead and we'll grab a fluid port. This is going to go in the bottom of the tank. All right, so that's in the bottom of the tank right there. And then we'll put symmetries on, so this will be going in either of the tanks for jet and diesel. This is going to be where they come out so that we can go ahead and when we want to, say, fill a tanker truck to sell it or use it, we can do that. So those are going in the bottom there. All right, so that's all set there. Next is the fracturing tower. This is what a ton of people are having problems with now. They can't keep their heat. I've done a bunch of testing. My system is working. We're going to go ahead with it. It's actually very intuitive. I've seen a lot of people, they don't think it's intuitive. It actually really is. I have some analogies that should help with that. All right, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at what is a fracturing tower. This is based off realistic stuff. So what you do is you take some crude oil, you put it through a heater, it goes into this tower. Now, different products that you want to be using have different densities. The higher the density, it goes down. The lower the density, it goes up. And so things like bitumen, which is asphalt, roads, and roofing, that goes to the very bottom. That's very heavy. Imagine asphalt, right? Very dense. Then you have fuel oil for ships. This is very heavy. Lubricating oil, waxes and polishes. Then you have diesel is above that. Then kerosene. Kerosene is jet fuel. As you can see, jet fuel, paraffin, lighting, and heating. Then we go into naphtha, petrol, and refined gases. So you get some of your actual gases at that point out of the top. So this is realistic. So let's take a look at some real fracturing towers here. As you notice, they are very thin. This makes perfect sense. So we want to make our system thin as well. And it should make perfect sense to you. If you take a huge pot that's enormous and you have it full of water, it's going to take a very long time for it to come up to a boil. And especially if you keep adding some cold water to it, it's going to take a very long time. Now, if you take a pan and you put a little bit of water in it, it's going to heat up very fast and get to temperature. So we want to do as little of a volume as possible. That's where I see a lot of people making mistakes, is they're trying to make their volumes too big. They're trying to do something like heat up 30,000 liters. You're going to need an insane amount. You don't need that. Imagine just taking the oil, putting it in a frying pan, letting it heat up in a couple seconds, then dumping it where it needs to go. That is much more efficient. That's essentially why these fracturing towers are so small IRL. We'll build in the center so we can keep symmetry on. So again, I want to keep this as small as possible. So I'm just going to do a small footprint. I also want it to look good. So I believe the numbers are as long as the diesel port is 7 blocks above the bottom of your tank, you'll get diesel. If the port is 25 above the bottom of your tank, you're going to get jet fuel. So those are the numbers we need. So what we're going to do here is we're going to raise up. And so 7 can be diesel. We're going to go a little bit higher on diesel because we don't need it right on the ground. And we also don't want a lot of volume. The jet fuel, we will need up to 25. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and I will currently just box this out. I'll leave it open for a second. I'll show you why. Now, this volume, let's quickly enclose it, and I'll show you what's up with this. So let's enclose this volume, and let's put a port on there, a liquid port, just so I can see what it's doing. So we'll put it on the end here, and we'll measure the volume in here, okay? And we'll stick it right here. And we'll go ahead and we'll check it. As you can see, this will hold 218 liters. Okay, let's bring it back. So now let's try something different. So let's go ahead. We'll cut a hole in the side here. We'll get rid of that liquid for now. All right, so we'll go ahead and we'll put that liquid meter back. We'll just put it in the very bottom here. Okay, next thing I'm going to do here is from the block above it, I'm going to put a wedge. This wedge is going to go all the way to the top. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to enclose the volume. So that is now enclosed. All right, now let's see how much that will hold. So last time was 218 liters. Let's see how much we have now. 117. Again, we want a small pot. The smaller the pot, the less oil in there, the easier it's going to be to heat up. We don't need huge quantities. We're going to continually pass the oil through and refine it. We do not need to store huge quantities of very hot oil. It's going to take an enormous amount of energy to do that. So we don't want to do that. All right, so let's do a little bit of measurements here. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to actually come back just a couple blocks and we'll measure. So go ahead and for diesel, the standard color for diesel is yellow. That would be the container you put it in. So what we want to do is measure up. We need at least 7 blocks for diesel. Okay, let me measure that one more time. Make sure it's 7. That's 8. Okay, so we'll cut one off. So that is diesel. Now jet fuel is blue. That's the storage container for kerosene. And we need at least 25 on this. So we'll go up. There is 25. All right, now I like to go a little bit overkill on the height of jet fuel sometimes. If you have something in there like a liquid port or something, it won't read that as the bottom of your tank, so I tend to go overkill. All right, so this is where we want jet fuel at the minimum. And I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to exceed that by, let's do 4 blocks. So let's just go up 4 extra blocks. We'll do it now. It's going to save us some headache. So next thing we'll do is we'll grab one of the distillation ports. And this is going to be for jet fuel. So I'm just going to stick it upside down and flip it with the select tool. So we'll cut it, flip it. All right, so now that is there. We're going to align it so that it's right above our fraction tower, right there. All right, good. We're going to paste that. And we're going to go ahead and we'll slide the diesel down. Now, again, diesel can be anywhere in this volume. It could be up here if you wanted. You know, we can stick it right up there. That's perfectly fine. So go ahead and stick it right here is where I'd like it. So that's going to go right there. Alrighty. Now what we need to do is, if you remember, we put a block in here. We're going to cut that out. So this is where we're going to be able to let the diesel out. So we want to have as small of a volume as possible letting this out. So you notice that is a very small volume in here. We have that, that side block there. And we're going to go up. So we're going to try to keep the volume as compact and as narrow as possible. That is going to reduce how much liquid we're having to heat, and we're going to be able to heat a lot better. This is one of the issues I'm seeing a lot of people have. All right, so we're going to go up to the point of the diesel port there. All right, so now we need to start to flare out because we're going to have issues with being able to get around this. So we're going to go ahead here, and I'm just going to take these corner blocks, and I'm just going to go up one set like that. We'll go ahead, we'll put on a wedge there, and I'll put a wedge here, and we'll just flare this out all around. All right, and we'll just grab a wedge for here. All right, there we go. And we'll do one more layer like I did on this one here. Again, the smaller the volume, the easier it is going to be to heat this up. The larger the volume, the harder it's going to be to heat it up. All right, so this is going to be the fraction tower from here on. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to raise up around it, and we'll do another measurement. We'll see what the volume is in here. Again, we want to keep the volume as small as possible. That's where I think a lot of people are making their errors here. Push this side as well. All right, and we'll go back and we'll look at that fuel port. All right, so next thing we want to do here is we want to merge that, make sure that is merged. If this doesn't get merged, the port here, we're going to have issues where it will not seal. So let's go ahead and we'll test it in game. All right, so looking at the liquid meter now, we have 703 liters. That's it. Again, keeping this as narrow as possible is what we want. Now, we're going to get this message sometimes. Workbench not available. Remove vehicle from work zone. This means we have too many vehicles in the spawn area. Okay, this was something new from when they did the Space DLC. The subgrids are handled differently. It thinks each sub-body now is a different vehicle. I have put in a bug report for this. I don't know if it's going to be an intended feature or not. So what we want to do is click to take this to the workbench. I want to clean up the vehicle. All right, now it disappears, as you can see. Go back into your workbench. Go to your load and grab your autosave. All right, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to save this so we don't lose it. All right, pump and refinery tutorial. All right, so now as you see, we have it back. Now the reason is, let's look at our parts. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 subgrids in there. So there is a limit. I'm not sure what the number is, but if you have too many subgrids, it's going to give you that message. It thinks there are 5 independent vehicles here. It's probably also counting the oil rod as another one as well, so we could have 6. All right, so now we want to get set up to go ahead and we want to take the diesel off of this. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab a elbow, and we're going to go grab a straight one, a couple straights there, and that's going to go to the back. That's going to be our diesel port. Okay, now we need to get the liquid up. So what we're going to do here is in the front. Doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be in the front, but I'm going to put it in the front here. We're going to go ahead and we can actually cut right there. Okay, and so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn a wedge on its side, and we're going to go up. Again, we're trying to keep the volume as small as possible. We were up to 703 last time we checked. So we're going to go all the way up like so, and we're going to go right to where it meets the top of the jet fuel there. All right, now the rest of this, we're going to make solid block. And again, this will keep the volume down. It's going to make it much, much, much easier for us to heat what's in there, because we're not trying to heat 30,000 liters. We're trying to heat a very small amount of liters, and it's going to heat up much quicker. It makes perfect sense. All right, so that's going to go up like so. We're going to go ahead and we'll dress this one up. As you can see, because that's a wedge block, that will allow some liquid to get to the top, but not a lot. So it's not going to store a lot, but it will let the liquid pass to the top. All right, so there we go. All right, so now we need to make an enclosed volume here. So we're going to go ahead and we'll grab up here and we'll just put two sides on that. And we'll just start to enclose this. So we'll do one more side wedge like so, and then we can enclose it. So as long as you have a path for this liquid to go, you should be good. So we're going to go ahead and we'll enclose the rear. Go ahead, we'll put some wedges on the side. Now we want to make sure we merge it. All right, now we're going to go ahead and test it again, see where it's at. So I'll save it. Good practice, especially doing this. If you get that problem where you have too many subgrids, it's always good to save it prior to spawning it, because then you don't have to worry about it if you close it down. If you're in a game, if you're in an actual career game and you do that, when you recall the vehicle in that way, you clean up the vehicle, you're going to lose the money for it. So, you know, you can give some money back to yourself in the XML file if you need to for that. All right, so we want to read this liquid meter again. 1,382 liters. That's it. That's all we want. That's all we need. All right. So we do not want this tower to be huge. This looks like a big old tower. It only has 1,300 liters in there. So next thing we need to do is we need to consider letting some air out of this volume. A lot of people are getting confused with how pressure works IRL and how pressure works in game. It's reasonably intuitive. So what we want to do is first we're going to find where our diesel port is, or our diesel thing is right there, our diesel distillation port right there. So I'm going to punch in 2 holes on each one. Again, I'm trying to go overkill here on the venting just to be on the safe side. It makes it a lot easier if we go overkill than underkill. So right there, as you can see, we have either side. I'm going to go ahead, we'll grab some fluid ports. All right, so we have 2 fluid ports there. We're going to do the same right here. All right, good. So there are 2 fluid ports. I'm going to go ahead and we'll take some gas relief valves, and we're going to put them on either side. And we'll grab some fluid ports here. We'll put those on either side. And bingo, we now, as we pump the marbles in, the liquid marbles, we need the gas marbles to go somewhere, or else those are going to compress, and then eventually we're going to have so much air compressed in there that we're not going to be able to fit any more liquid in. If we can get all the air out, we can get as much liquid in as we can. That's going to be what we want to do there. All right, so good. So this is pretty well set up here. This is kind of the easy part. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to move this. We're going to go ahead and we're going to cut the tower, and I'm going to move it. And so we'll just line it up on one side. All right, and we'll stick it right about there. So there's our fraction. We need to make sure we don't hit it with the rotor. So we want to put it right there is good. And we'll paste this. Right now, remember, you do get free electricity if you're on one of these bases. So we need a battery on this, just the one. You can hide it, or you can have it in plain sight if you want. The other thing I want is a keep active block. The reason I want to keep active block is that we can pump and refine while we're out doing a mission. So let's say we're in a career game, we're doing a mission. This system will still pump and refine while we're gone. We want that. We want it to pump and refine. All right, so the next thing we do here is we need to port from the oil supply into the fraction tower. And then we need to port it into the diesel and the jet fuel tanks. So what we'll do here is kind of color code these a little bit. Actually do it just a little bit lighter. All right, so we're going to go ahead off of the oil here. And we'll just port this directly. Now what we can do is I just want the liquid. It's not a big deal. If we get some air in the system, it will go right through. So that's fine, but I like to try to keep as much out of there as possible. It's just we're going to have to wait for it to vent. So I'm going to put a liquid relief valve on there. That's going to keep this. It's a filter. It keeps it so that it is only liquid. And we're going to go ahead here and we'll put an elbow on. I'm going to take symmetry off at this point, seeing we're no longer symmetrical. And we'll go ahead and we'll drag it back behind the jet fuel tank, and then we're going to come up and we'll start getting ready to feed the furnace. Now, we're going to use an electric furnace. It's convenient. We have free electricity here. We might as well. A lot of people are thinking of this counterintuitively, and I did a bunch of testing on this. This is working with one furnace. People are stacking, putting tons and tons of furnaces, and they're having problems heating this up. I was able to heat it up effectively with one furnace. So it did take quite a bit of testing. So here is coolant in. So we want the coolant in on the bottom because that's going to take the coolant, in this case oil, and that's what we're going to be heating up. So this is going to go up like that, one block, and we'll just put it like that. I'm going to go ahead and grab some feet for this just so that it's not floating in the air. All right, and then we can merge it. So let's go ahead and merge that. So we have our coolant in now on the bottom. You definitely want to check that. Coolant in. So we're going to go ahead and put an elbow on there. And we'll just grab this color actually for our gray. for our oil. And so that's going to go back like that. So what we want to do is we want to pump this in with a pump. And we actually do not want to be pumping a ton of this through. And I'll tell you, this was the main development that I kind of found out here was, and it makes perfect sense. Now, imagine you're trying to bake a potato. You take the potato and you turn your oven up to 1,000 degrees. And you put your potato in that 1,000-degree oven for 10 seconds. Are you going to have a nice cooked baked potato? No. That, even though it was at 1,000 degrees, that 10 seconds is not enough to cook the potato. So what is the better way to cook the potato? Well, turn the heat down to 500 degrees and put the potato in there for an hour. And this is where I think a lot of people are having problems. What they're doing is they're trying to rush the oil through the furnace as fast as possible. They're trying to take the potato and put it in the oven for 10 seconds and then say, why is the potato not hot? What you need to do is you need to slow down your flow so that the potato has time to warm up. And so that's one of the big things that I found out about this is you really need to slow it down. I know that's kind of anathema to a lot of people's strategy, but you do need to slow the flow down. Slowing the flow down is going to give it time to heat up. The more time the oil spends in the furnace, the hotter it's going to get. Now, there is a limit to this. If you left it in there forever, sure, you're getting really good hot oil in the furnace, but it never gets in here, and this will cool down. So there is a balance, definitely, 100%. There is a balance. So we're going to have the oil go into the furnace like so. All right, next thing, valve. All right, so we're going to have a valve here. We want a variable fluid valve right here. So what we'll do here is we're going to go ahead and we'll pump down like so, and we'll just go all the way to the bottom here. All right, and then what I want to do is we're going to go ahead and we will put a fluid port right here. And that fluid port can sit on the outside like so. That's going to give us more space inside. All right, good. So that's going to put the oil in. Now what I want to do is I want to do dual pump and pump this right in. So that's going to pump it in. So what we'll do is we'll vary how much oil gets through this valve, and you'll find the temperature will actually be higher. And that's what we want. So that is all plumbed up there. All right, good. So that's going to let the oil in. Now let's get the plumbing done for the jet fuel and for the diesel. So we're going to go ahead and we'll cut a hole there. Go ahead and we'll grab the fluid port here. This will go right there. Beautiful. That's going to be for jet fuel. All right, do the same thing on this side for the diesel. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to just plumb up this diesel. So we'll go ahead and we'll grab our yellow for diesel to color code it. All right, and let's see, we're going to run right into the oil line. I think we are. So let's see where we're at here. Yeah, we're going to go up. So we'll go up one and around like so. And we'll send this over to the diesel tank. And we don't care if we pass air along with us. It's perfectly fine if we have some air coming with us. No problem there. All right, good. And so we'll go ahead and we'll put a pump somewhere in the line here. So we'll put it right here. All right, and there's our pump for diesel. All right, let's plumb up the jet fuel. So we're going to go ahead and we'll use our blue for jet fuel. So it's in line. It's a little bit off center. It's one off center. Okay, so we'll line this up here. All right, and then we'll run this right down, and we'll plumb the jet fuel directly into its tank. Now, what we're doing here is essentially it will do an even split, and then we have to pull it off to put it in either tank. It's 50-50 split for this. Here we go. All right, bingo, that's good there, and we'll go ahead and we'll just set a pump in here somewhere, so we'll go ahead and grab a pump. We don't need much pump. If we do a large pump, likely we're not going to be producing diesel fast enough to pump that large pump in. There's really no point. So this is all plumbed up now. And we should be good to go. We have our air relief on here. We also have the ability to pump this. We'll probably, we may add the ability to pump this back into this tank. Let's say the temp dropped too much and we're full. We might want a relief tank, but we should be all right at this moment. All right, so next thing we need to do is we need to start getting ready to program this up. And so I'm going to start making a command station here that we can use to run this system. All right, good. So we can start putting these panels in here. All right, so we'll do 3 panels in here. All right, good. So there's 3. All right, so the first one here is going to be the fraction tower. All right, so when we turn this on, it's going to, we'll just do a flip switch. Actually, we'll do a button so we can see it's green. It's going to be push is on, it's going to be toggle rather. This is going to turn on the heater and the pumps. All right, after fraction tower, what we want to do is this is going to be the valve percentage. All right, this is going to be a dial. It's going to be 0 to 100%. All right, that's going to be 2. Right, then next thing we need is a arrow up. That's going to be a push. That will be 3. That's going to be valve plus. All right. Next thing we do is valve minus. And this is going to be an arrow button going down. That's going to be a push. That's going to be 4. Okay, good. So after this, we're interested in our temperature. So we're going to do temp. That's going to be a dial. It's going to be 0. So we'll get up to like 340. So we'll do 350. This will be 5. Next one's going to be an indicator light. So we'll do indicator. This will be temp 300 plus. So that's going to tell us if our temperature is 300 plus. That's 6. All right, good. Next one here is going to be fraction volume right there. All right, so that's going to be a gauge vertical. So 0, and it was like 1350. So 1350. Okay, that's going to be 7. All right, the next thing I want to do is, if we look here, this was a cool thing that they added with the pressure update, is on these new liquid meters. As you can see, you can read out if it's how much water, diesel, jet fuel, oil, seawater slurry, or saturated slurry you have in there. So you can read out the constituent elements of it. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to put those in. So if we look at our panel here, so we have the volume of that. I want to then do how much oil, diesel, and jet fuel are in this. So what we'll do is we'll line those up. So 4 here is going to be oil. That's going to be a gauge again, vertical. It can go up to a max of 1350, so we'll type that in. So somewhere around there, 1350. This will be 8. All right, then we'll go over here. This is going to be 11. That's going to be diesel. All right, that's going to be a gauge again, vertical. We'll go to the max 1350. It's never going to get there because it's an even split, but we'll go there to 1350. Then we'll go 12. 12 is going to be jet. All right, that's going to be a gauge vertical again, 0, 1350 again. Next thing, 2 here, we have up top is going to be, this is going to be 9. So there's 9. This is going to be a jet pump. That's going to be a button toggle. This is going to be a diesel pump. That's going to be a button as well. That's going to be a toggle. That's going to be 10. All right, so we're all set there. So let's go ahead and we'll daisy chain these up. All right, next we're going to make our microcontroller. So let's grab a blank microcontroller and I'll just stick it right here. All right, we're going to start working through this. So it's going to be the pump refinery tutorial. Just going to make it big and we'll change it as necessary. So we need to take in some blocks here. So we need panel in and out, composite, input panel, or output panel rather. We need another one for the fluid port. So that's going to be composite input, fluid meter. Okay, good. So that's our composites. Next one here, we're going to do our on-off outs. So there's going to be an output. This is going to be, all right, furnace and pumps there. All right, next thing we need is we need the output. This is going to be jet pump. All right, diesel pump right there. So we'll start doing our ins here. So we need a number input. This is going to be the temp. All right, this one here is going to be the fluid volume or fraction volume. Let's do that. All right, that'll tell us our total volume there. So temp, fraction, volume. All right, so the next thing we need to do here is we need to have a number output. So it's going to be a number output. This is going to be valve. All right, and I think we're good. So let's go ahead and we'll shrink that up just a little bit there, and we'll stick that there, and we can shrink it up. Okay, good. So let's go ahead and we'll start working in here. So we'll grab a text, spawn. Okay, and we'll start putting our ins and outs here. So valve, fraction, volume, temperature, diesel pump, jet pump, furnace pumps, fluid meter, panel. Okay, good. So we're all set here. Let's drag these down a little bit here. So first one we want here is an on-off for 1. That's going to be, it's going to do the furnace and pumps. That goes right in there. All right, so that is good. So right to the right of that, we're going to have a dial that will tell us the percentage of the valves. So we're going to go Control C, V, V, and we want to do 3 and 4. So 3 and 4, plugging in there. They're going to go to an up-down counter, which will move the valve. So we're going to go ahead to an up-down counter. We set the rate 0.001. We're going to enable it. We're going to go to a maximum of 1. We're going to set the reset value at 0.27. I've done a bunch of testing. 0.27 worked really well for me. So we'll do that as a starting point, and we can fine-tune it from there. All right, good. So that's all set there. All right, next one we need is 5. 5 is going to be the temperature. So we'll read that. We'll write that up next. Start doing our writes now. We might as well do it. So let's go ahead, and we have a bunch of writes from, it goes from 2 on. So let's do 2. We can have a total of, be 11, I believe, is going to be after that. So the temperature is going to, the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to read the up-down counter in percentages. So what I want to do is grab a function. All right, this is going to read that, and it's going to be in percentages, so 100. So it'll be x times 100, and that's going to read that out in percentages there. All right, good. So that will be our first right is right there. All right, good. So that's then we need 5. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 is going to be our temperature. So there's temperature right there. All right, good. After the temperature, we need to do an on-off here. So this is going to be 6. So 6 is going to be, we'll do a greater than. And so if the temperature is greater than a value, so we'll do temperature in here. This will go there. All right, we'll stick that down over here. That will go right there for now. And then we're going to set what our temperature rate is. So for this, I want it if it's greater than 300. So this is fraction temp, and that's if it's greater than 300. So that will go up here, and that will plug in there. Beautiful. All right, so after that here, we have, that's 6, so 7, and then we have 7. So 7 is going to be the fraction volume. Okay, 8 is going to start to come off this fluid meter. So we're going oil, diesel, jet, I believe. So let's check it. We have the composite. So diesel is 2, jet is 3, 6 is oil. So oil, diesel, jet. So we'll go ahead and we'll read a number. So there's going to be 6. 6 is for oil. All right, diesel and jet are going to be 11 and 12. 12, of course, 12, 11. So this one here is going to be diesel, and this one here is going to be jet, and this one is going to be oil. So we'll set that up there. And so oil is going to go after fraction. So we have fraction, then it's going to read our oil to us. So that goes like that. These two can go down over here like so. All right, and then what we need to do is we're going to run our pumps out, 9 and 10. So we'll go ahead and we'll just move this a little bit down. All right, good. And we want 9 and 10. All right, so top one, 9. This one is going to be 10. 9 and 10, those will go in right there. 9 and 10. And we'll plug those into the panel. Bingo bongo. There we go. All right, good. So let's make sure we're all connected here. We have one thing left, and that's the valve. And the valve is going to go off of that valve right there. This is the panel here. This goes right there. And we should hopefully be set. Hopefully I got these all right on the first try. All right, so let's start to plug these in. So we need panel. So the panel goes in there. We need panel to come back. We need to read the, I did it wrong. Panel goes right here. This is going to be the fluid meter, goes right there. All right, good. So now we can go out. We have the furnace and pump. So we go furnace and our 2 pumps, our in and our out pump. We then have the valve. From there, we go to the diesel pump, which is up here, going into the tower. Then from there, we have the jet pump, which is right there. We have the fraction volume, which goes right here, the liquid level, and then this one should be temp. Temp is going to go right to there. And so we should be good. Checking electricity. All the electricity is plumbed up, except the panels, so let's do that. And I think we're missing some here. Let's check. We're not connected to the top either, so let's connect to the top. All right, there we go. We don't need to connect to these because those are just bearings. All right, let's go ahead and save this, and we'll spawn it. We'll give it a run. All right, so we have a toggle here that I put. So we press the toggle. It's going to attach to both the table, and we also need it to attach to the swivel. You don't necessarily need it to attach to the table, but I like it to be attached to the table. All right, we're going to start pumping. This pumps at, as you can see, a very fast rate. And we're already up to 700 liters. All right, so we're going to go ahead. We're going to turn on the fraction tower. If we look here, we have a valve. I start at 27%. Our temperature is at 27 degrees. We can increase the valve. We can decrease the valve. As you can see, we're going to be pretty precise. I want this real precise. So we're going to go to right on the money, 27, and we're going to start it. Here we have fraction volume. As you can see, we're pumping in. Oil is coming in the system. As you can see, the temperature is rising. So this is something a lot of people have been having issues with is, again, the baked potato analogy. If you put it in a really hot oven for a short period of time, it does not have enough time to heat up. By leaving this in the oven, in this case the oven being the furnace at 340 degrees, it is more likely that the oil is actually going to get up to temperature. If you spit the oil through there super fast, it's never going to have time to get up to temperature. You need to slow it down. A lot of people just think that pedal to the metal is always best in Stormworks. It is not only not best in Stormworks, it is not best in engineering in a lot of applications. You need to slow it down because you're going to have no time for this oil to heat up. So let's go ahead and take a look. As you can see, temp's coming up. We have a valve at 27%. We're going to leave it there. Now we're not over 300, so the oil is going to be the same as the fraction. As soon as we get over 300, we're going to start splitting off into diesel and jet. So the oil is going to go down. Diesel and jet is going to start to get a split of that. and then we can run the jet pump and the diesel pump to siphon it off. So coming up on temp here, 192. All right, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to lower our valve down a little bit. We're going to go down to, let's go down to 22% here. And as you notice, the temperature is coming up faster. All right, so again, we reduced the amount of oil coming in, or the rate the oil was coming in. We're giving it more time to cook. So again, that's why I put this valve adjustment on here. We're already at 800, and we weren't gaining temperature very fast. Slow it down. Let's check it here. We want to make sure we don't hit 1300 before we get to temperature, or we're not going to be able to get to temperature. So we're doing pretty well now. We're climbing pretty fast. I'm going to drop the valve down a little bit more, down to 20% valve. All right, so notice that we're down to 20%, and look at our temp. There's our temp. Coming up to temp. And bingo, there's 300 degrees. We're fractioning. If we look, there's diesel, there's jet. We're going to go ahead and turn on the pumps. Diesel and jet is going out. Look at our temperature. Temp's still going up, baby. So this is one of the biggest problems I see all the time and that people are doing with Stormworks. They think that if they just make it faster, if they just make it hotter, if they just make it bigger, that it's going to be better, better, better. Faster, hotter, bigger doesn't necessarily mean it's true. If you watch the steam tutorials recently, a higher temperature on your furnace is actually detrimental. It's not helpful. It's going to make it so your condenser is overheating. Same thing is happening here. By the faster flow rate, some people are just taking the bigger the number, the better. No. The bigger the number the heat is here, yes. But we lose heat if we send the oil through there too fast. We're sending through about 6 liters per second when we were starting at 27%. We're now sending 3.55 liters per second through. And you'll notice our temperature is up to 327 degrees. And guess what? We don't have 8 furnaces here. We have 1. So a bunch of people have been throwing in extra furnaces at it. Oh, I have 5 furnaces, and I can't get my temperature up above 300 degrees. The game must be broken. No, it makes perfect sense. You're putting your potato in a really hot oven for a super short period of time. Right, you could take your hand and stick it in a 500-degree oven for a fraction of a second, and you wouldn't get burned. If you put your hand in that oven for 10 minutes, it's going to be crispy, crispy critter. So you need to slow down your flow rates. And all I did was put a variable valve on there. And we can sit here at a console and we can control it. And I actually needed to control it because as we were gaining temperature, as we were putting more volume in here, we were up around 800 liters. I was getting scared that we are going to have so little room left that we weren't going to be able to get up to temp fast enough. And what did I do? Reduce down to 20%. And look at that. Still climbing on temp, baby. So this is working beautifully. The fraction tower is almost 100% full. We have very little oil because it's being converted into diesel and jet fuel. As you can see, the 2 pumps are on. Let's check the tanks. Make sure I plumb them up correctly. 350 liters of diesel in there. We have 19,000. We're full of oil. And we have ourselves no jet fuel at the moment. So likely I'm having a pump problem with that. So we'll check that out next. So I can shut this off, and we'll actually disconnect it. Good habit to get into to disconnect that in case you have to despawn. But as you can see here, we're still gaining temperature. We're up around 340 degrees. Beautiful. So, you know, I've been hearing a lot of people recently in the last week or so saying this is impossible. It's a bug. It needs to be fixed. It really isn't. This is actually pretty logical. I hope that potato analogy makes sense to you because that's kind of the clearest example I can have. And so this works pretty well. Let's go ahead and do our final fixes again. Every time, make sure you, save. So we're going to save. You want to disconnect that. Make sure it's disconnected from both the table. If we look at the table, it is disconnected from the table. It is also disconnected from the swivel. Now we're going to despawn this. We're losing all this oil and jet fuel. Not a big deal. This is just a custom test world. But you want to make sure you're doing all your testing in a custom world because you don't want to lose all that in your career game. Let's do additive, green. All right, we want to do, I'll just do some ambers on this. These will be greens over here. This will be green for the temperature there. All right, good. So that's all set. So that's just some coloration on there, make it a little bit easier to see. So likely we're not getting it in the porting area here. So I'm curious if it is this right here. So let's actually get rid of that. And let's test it real quick. So we want to make sure that this has enough space. Let's go down to our diesel here. Our diesel has a little bit of an indent, so let's actually put that back. Let's see, I think the diesel has the same ports. Yep, so I don't think it's that port, so let's actually back it up. Let's put the port back. And I think what we'll do here is we'll cut a little hole in here. So let's cut right here. Let's cut right here and give this a little bit of space to have some, we want to make sure that it gets around it. Let's try it like this, see how it works. All right, reattach the pump, pump some oil in there. We'll go ahead and we'll start this. 20% was working better for me. Let's go down to 20. This happens pretty quick. We'll heat up real fast here, so we don't have to worry about it. Look how fast we're heating up. Again, let's look at our flow rates here on the variable valve. We're only letting 2.34 liters per second through this furnace. It's having a lot of time to heat up. It's going very slow. If we look on this side here, you know, it's slowing us way down. We're not putting a ton of cold oil all the way through. So many people are just rushing it. It's not going to work. You got to slow it down. All right, here comes our temp. We're already at 200 degrees, and we only have 80 liters in there, so we're heating up very fast. All right, so here we are, about to hit 300 degrees again. And we're fractioning. So let's look. We have diesel, we have jet. We're going to go turn both pumps on, and we're going to see if we're actually pouring jet fuel in. And there we go. So, yep, it was that. I had the, just had the distillation port touching another block. It needed a space below it so that it could actually tell that it was the certain distance off the bottom. So that was it. As you can see, we're getting jet fuel in the jet tank. And we'll walk over and we'll check on the diesel tank. Should be diesel in there as well. Yep, diesel in there as well. So this system works really, really well. You know, I hear a lot of this that the game's counterintuitive. There are some things that are a little bit different than real life, but a lot of this actually is intuitive. But you really have to think of it. There's so much you have to think about. You know, you can't always just go balls to the wall as hard as you can, as hot as you can. You have to think of some of these things. All right, we dipped it below 300 for a second there, and all I did was turn down the flow rate on the valve. It made sense. We weren't getting that oil in that furnace long enough, and there we go. We're cooking again. So if you have any of those issues, this rig is set up nicely where, as you can see, we can change the valve rates. If you left it static, you might get in a situation where you're not able to get it to work correctly. And thank you for watching. I hope you guys found this tutorial helpful, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.